Okay. Bill, you were the first commander of this team as a PCS team, and you had a very short stay there at Dong Xuai. Why don't you tell us all about all the fun you were having?
Well, we started, of course, in February up at Bujima. And in early May, around the 1st of May, we're given an alert that we would be moving to Dong Xuai later, perhaps later in May, and that either a split team between Budap and Bujimap would be organized, or that another team would come in to replace A-342 up at Bujimap. So our efforts at Dong Xuai began around the 1st of May. Dallas Johnson, Intel, and Don Dedman, senior weapons NCO, and I went down to Dong Xuai and back and forth to B-31, getting instructions on setting up the camp. And we spent most of the rest of the month of May there at the three of us at Dong Xuai. The rest of the team did not join us until about the 15th, 16th of May that they began to come in. The interesting, I guess the interesting feature of that particular camp arrangement was it was done very hastily. And as you recall, there had been a severe attack on Budap around the 15th of May, and there were several regiments that were operating south of Budap and moving between war zones C and D. So it was an area that was in peril, we believed. We looked at places to put the camp. We looked, probably the best physical feature was an open area south of Dong Xuai toward Phuc Vinh. The most logical, quite frankly, was to shove us in adjacent to the district headquarters, because we were going to be one of the first teams to also serve as advisors to the district chief. And that put us right at the crossroads of Dong Xuai intersection with built-up area on two sides of the camp. The intelligence bore out everything that we were aware of, that it was an increasingly dangerous area. There was no effort made, regrettably, from Arvin to move into the area between Budap and Dong Xuai during that period to make any engagement or to provide any cover for the preparations at Dong Xuai. We were to be given about 400 CIDG, and they started trickling in about around the 1st of June, and they came with wives and other family members, pigs, chickens, and all of their impedimenta, and there were no arrangements that were made. But I don't want to go on too long.
Well, I put a map up there. If there's anything you want to mention,
Well, the only thing I would mention in looking at the map is if you go due north, you've got the Tunloy Plantation that's just off the map to the top. And then you've got heavily vegetated areas, and that whole area between Dong Xuai and Budap was filled with at least two VC regiments that were coming off of the Budap operation, who were back in this area, and we knew that. And but anyway, we were given a stat team, a CB team, that were to come assist us in building the camp, which we were going to build out. You see the diagonal road that leads from through from LTL 13 and 1, and we were going to expand the camp in that direction. The CBs were never given their heavy equipment to begin moving berms from the old exposed ranger location in which we were staying. Actually, what we had done is split the team. We kept half the team within the district headquarters, which was, co-located maybe 100 meters away, and half in the camp, the new camp, because there just wasn't any room or protection. But we never got the CB equipment, so that we were denied that movement of the berms to start really building the camp. And very little support from the Vietnamese in trying to house 400 CIDG that came in, one Camboat company, and they came with their families. The Camboat company, highly regimented as they were, said, well, we're not going to sit right in the center of, camp out around the center of Dong Xuai, and they went to the east, to the edge of the town. There was a vacant school building there, and the Camboat company stayed there throughout the operation, conducted themselves very, very well. So that was a general setup there, and tomorrow is the anniversary, the 57th anniversary of the Battle of Dong Xuai, and which occurred, started about midnight, shortly before midnight on the night of the 9th, and the elements that were in the old abandoned ranger camp, where I was with half the team, and the Vietnamese A-team commander and the stat team held out to about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock at that time, and at that point, many of the CIDG had left the camp. There was an armored car platoon an Arvin armored car platoon in the, I would say, the southeast part of the camp that was autonomous, refused to ever practice supplemental or alternate positions, and remained in that camp. Several of them tried to flee the area and were destroyed, and ultimately contributed nothing to the fight. But about one, what was left went into the district headquarters. There were about, I guess, 4 or 5 of us. And there, from the district headquarters building, continued to hold out until about 2 o'clock, when we had some very brave Hueys that came in and took us out. We were in the artillery firing pit at that time, and that was sort of the last stand in those two artillery pits. But we were able to get out with a few of my people and a few Vietnamese, and we at the time had lost two CB, one CB, two of our people, and later Shields, who was a CB, died on the helicopter coming out. That's just sort of a thumbnail sketch. I don't want to usurp everybody else's opportunity.
If you click on the chat button, I've just put up a PDF file that you can take down that Bill and Jim Taylor wrote for one of the VVFH magazines on the battle. It's quite a good article. So you go ahead and download it from the chat box. Now, Bill Williams iPad, give me your name again.
Who, mine?
No, Williams iPad.
Oh, my.
CQ.
Go ahead. No. Bill Stokes, you're okay. Williams iPad.
Charles Q. Williams. He was the
Yeah.
ex.
No.
No, he's looking for William Sigler,
What? Who?
right? Sigler, Sigler.
Okay, that's what I need.
Yeah, it's Samuel. Actually, they put in William. My name is Samuel William Sigler. And sometimes the computer just sends William and not Samuel.
Okay.
But I was the captain, I was the camp commander.
It was interesting. I went back in the fall of 1971. I was with the 2nd Squadron of the 11th Cav, and I flew in. We had just refueled at Han Quan, so I popped down in the soccer field and went over to the headquarters. There were a couple of people who'd been there in 1965, and there was one U.S. sergeant who was there, part of the, I guess, a several-man team. So he escorted me back through the beautifully redone camp, and I said, "What do you know about 1965?" He had never heard of the Battle of Dong Xoai, but it was interesting to see that wonderfully constructed camp some years later.
Earl, you came in, Larry Akers followed Bill Stokes, and then you came in. What?
Yes, I came in country, I can't even remember the month in the summer. But when I got to the C detachment, I said, here I am. And the colonel, I can't even remember his name right now. He looked at me and he said, "Taylor, I got the perfect place for you." I said, "Yes, sir." All right. Now, here's the thing that most people didn't know. I was a chemical corps officer. I had done 2 years infantry, 82nd, but I came in commissioned as a chemical corps. So I had my cross douchebags, as you call it, up there. But he said, "Oh, but you've been to Ranger School. You can do anything." I said, "Yes, sir." So got the helicopter, went out, and I looked down. I said, "Where's the camp?" He said, "You see all that rubble, all that construction? That's your camp." So landed in there, and I remember, I'm so sad to hear about Lieutenant Rittenhouse. Lieutenant Rittenhouse was next. So Marvin was my top. I can't remember Marvin's last name. I just lost a lot of memories on this. But anyway, I said, "Yeah, I got my job cut out for me." So the first thing, I went over to the district headquarters and met the major, Tutar Kron. I used to know his name so well. And then we started to continue to reconstruct. Now, they told me about the French minefield out there. And almost on a nightly basis, something blew up in the minefield. And sometimes it was animals, small animals, and unfortunately, a few times it was the Vietnamese out there going out to, take a crap or something. I do recall, Bill, we had the one big generator, and what that was able to do was to keep our commo going, and maybe 2 light bulbs on in the little team house. So one of the first things that I did was to contact headquarters, the S4, say, I need some equipment down here if I'm going to operate. They said, what do you need? I said, almost everything, but definitely I need a bigger generator. I need a refrigerator. And so shortly I was able to get that there. Oh, I can never forget, let's get the movies in about every week. And I knew how to operate one of those old big movie machines there. And we actually had a little outdoor movie. We put a sheet up outside and, show the movie. And then of course the whole camp came out to watch the movie. The other thing that was a big problem for me initially was, I don't know if it was a cook left over from your days, Bill, but we had a Vietnamese lady that cooked everything with the curry. And so she cooked my eggs that morning. It's so full of curry. And I said, I can't eat so much curry. So I was able to, one of the interpreters, to find a guy who used to cook for the French in Saigon. And I said, look, if you'll come up here from Saigon, I'll pay you very well. And I'll let you go back home about every 6 weeks and stay a week and then come back. This guy came into the camp. He could cook anything, French, American, and bake bread. He took our beer and used it to ferment the bread. Oh, we lived high on the hog after that. One of the highlights for me, quite frankly, was, in addition to building the camp, was going into the local town there. And you remember we had many of the mountain yards were there. And I would go into the mountain yard villages and play with the children, and got a pretty good rapport. But I was able to rebuild the Catholic church there. Seems like to me during the attack, they didn't do much with the Buddhist, place there, but the Catholic church was destroyed. Also, I was able to rebuild 2 schools. One of them mostly I think the Cambodians was using that for the most part. And I think in my structure, we had 5 companies there, and we had about 700 and some people there, as I recall, at one point, with 5 companies. And I think 3 were probably Mountain Yard and 2 Cambodians, or the other way around. Incidentally, the camp commander there, the captain, my special forces counterpart, Vietnamese counterpart, wasn't able to speak English really. And so of course we had so many good interpreters, but I just wanted to say this, that on my second tour, I worked up in the train, and he worked in the train also in the S4 shop, and I worked in the S4 shop. And by this time, he was speaking pretty good English. So it was so good to see him back in there. But getting back to the camp, so we were able to get in an engineering team, Army engineers, not the CVs, and they were able to rebuild the big well there in the camp and also in the city. So we had fresh water. And I did establish a sanitation system where we just used we got one of the bulldozers running. There was 2 bulldozers there. One, I didn't think would ever run again, but we had 2 Spec 4s that came and they could do anything. They got one of the bulldozers to run, and we dug a big pit, And so I had a weekly garbage run and picked up trash from all around and dumped it in it, and we burned it. So we did a lot of good things, a really awful lot of good things there. We had a few probing attacks, nothing serious, just enough for us to shoot off a few flares, etc. So So that's kind of what I remember mostly about it. The first Christmas that I was there, I remember Lieutenant Rittenhouse' wife had sent him a bunch of spices and stuff, and he baked all the apple pies for us that time. I remember that very well. And I was going to ask, if he was still alive, if I had seen him today about that. So I had a very interesting experience. They have very interesting experience. And of course, I said, when I came over as a chemical officer, 27 years old, city boy, but I learned a lot during that time that I was there. And then, of course, I left and went up to B-34. Oh, yeah, and Lieutenant Williams, who had also won the Medal of Honor there, he did come back to the camp a couple times to visit. At that time, I think he was making the money run each month, with the bags of piastres. So he came back a couple of times while I was there. Yeah. And that's pretty much what I can recall. I can always fill in a few other things if anybody would like.
Who's iPad number 6? If you would identify yourself, I would be appreciated. But you're,
Hey, this is Skip George.
Ah.
I can't get my picture. I got everybody's picture, but I can't get mine up. I don't know. My wife gave me her iPad. I was able to get on. So I couldn't get on with mine. So I was there 68, the end of 68 through the end of 69. I was an XO.
we'll come up to
XO
you.
and then a CPO, and then I took over the camp for 3 months when my captain got malaria and left. So
We'll come back to you a bit here. Skip.
okay, I'm sorry about. You
Ambrose
don't want to
Brennan.
see me anyway.
Ambrose Brennan is not here yet. Okay. Jim?
Yeah.
You probably chronologically are the next person here.
Okay, I was the third officer at Duke Fong, and I think it was like May of '67. They decided to move me to Sumcat and become the XO. Bob O'Malley was the camp commander at that time, or the team leader. We weren't there very long after I got there, because I was told our mission was to close the camp. So we got busy with figuring out how to do that. Because we had several hundred CIDG there and civilians, and they all had to be moved out. We got a plan together, and we decided that we were going to destroy most of the ammunition because it was down in a hole, and there was a lot of it was underwater. I know the hooch that I had was below ground, and I had to walk into it stepping on ammo boxes because there was about 16, 17 inches of water in my hooch. So we put a plan together and we started to close the camp. And my memory tells me that it was somewhere around May or June or July, we actually closed the camp. The demo sergeant, I can't remember his name, and I were the last two off. We pulled the 10-minute fuse and got to a helicopter and took off and hovered around until we saw the explosion. And then we moved to Dong Xuai. And I didn't stay there very long either, because I got the Ho Chi Minh high step and lost about 30 pounds in the team, or the team medic. It was a helicopter land, and he came into my hooch and he said, "Lieutenant, grab your shit, you're going to the hospital." So I ended up with amoebic dysentery and the worms. I'm not really sure where I got them, but there's no telling. But I didn't stay at Dong Xuai very long. After I got out of the hospital, they reassigned me to Company A to the headquarters, and I was given the job as the assistant 4. And I stayed there doing that. But as far as operations and other things at Zomcat, we didn't do a whole lot after we got the mission to pull out. And that's about it.
Bill Herring, can you unmute? And I think you're the next time frame there. You were the team sergeant for a bit. Unmute your microphone there. Down the bottom left corner of your screen.
Okay,
Tell us about your time there.
my
Identify
time,
yourself.
Bill?
electric,
Bill Herring.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Hello,
Yes, we hear you, but you gotta say something.
gotta say something, huh? What you like to know?
What happened when you were team sergeant?
I came in there, let's see,
About just after Tet in 68? No, you come there in 67.
oh, I was there during 10.
Yeah, you come
I
there
was there during 10. I was there in 67.
and you were the intel sergeant first.
I was there in 67, 68. I went in there, I think you got down here, I went in there in about February, but I went in there around, I went there before 10. I was there about probably in December.
Yeah,
Oh.
you were as the intel sergeant first
But,
before you became team sergeant.
I went in there, Britt was team sergeant. And he left, and Captain Dollinger was the commander. And he made me the team sergeant for quite a while. And some guy come in there, I think, outranked me. So he moved me up to Boda to the team feed 341 up there on the border. I stayed up there until my year was up. We lived in Boda. Well, you don't Boda now. You get that tomorrow, right?
Do that tomorrow. This is right now Don Swai.
So I didn't do much. Well, we didn't do much. We were there during Tet. In fact, we reported we reported those regiments coming through there between us and the Song Bay River. But you know, they didn't quite listen to us. But in fact, we were all out one day and we got caught between the Song Bay River and our camp. They were coming through there. So we had to cross the Song Bay River in sampans, get over that team across the river there. And waited out there till they got all them people crossed. We could get back to our camp.
Sam, Bill Siegler, you came in about that time, late 68.
Yeah, exactly. Late 69, I got there. It was when, Dong Swai was one of only 7 camps that got overrun. And so when we arrived there was always that hanging over us. So we constantly were reinforcing the surroundings and going out on operations. That's what we did. But we had some pretty interesting things happen on the way. One of the most interesting things was when I arrived in country with my orders to Nha Trang, I handed them to the replacement guy to get a helicopter ride up there to Nha Trang. And this replacement guy says to me, Captain, he says, you can take off that beret. You're going to the 101st Airborne. I said, what'd you say? And he said, you're going to the 101st Airborne. He goes, there isn't a captain up there that isn't dead or wounded. Now, at the time, I didn't know what was going on, but that wasn't why I was on while I was in Vietnam. I had already spent 2 years in special forces and mostly training. And so I felt I was more or less ready for it. And anyway, I said to him, I said, let me see those orders. And he hands them back to me. I fold them up and I said to him, when you guys snap out of it, I'll be at the officers club. And so I went to the club. And sure enough, 3 hours later, they send a major in. He goes, Captain Sigler, this is it. Your orders have been changed. Da, 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 da. And I said, I want you to read my orders. And he goes, I don't care what those orders say. He goes, you're going to the 101st Airborne. I said, well, read them anyway. So he starts reading them, and he's an admin guy. And he says to me, when did you get in country? I said, 4 hours ago. And what happened was my data rank was in California. And because we missed the plane and we were bar hopping, we ended up like 3 days late. And I was actually a civilian. So I said to him, I'm a civilian. So you either send me to Nha Trang or back to the States. And sure enough, they got a Jeep and the MP and they escorted me up. So that's how, and it turned out that was Hamburger Hill going on, which I didn't learn till about a year afterwards. But we had some times at Dong Xuai, and I'll tell you, one of the other fellows here was talking about showing films to the indigenous, and they really, really look forward to it. And we basically did that once a week, and when they felt like it. But a lot of the sergeants had, not necessarily a good attitude about showing it. And but I basically insisted we were going to have once a week, we're going to do it. So the next week we go out there, guess what? There's a big argument going on between Special Forces Vietnam and Special Forces American. They're calling each other names. And what would happen was the projection bulb in the projector was missing. There was none, right? And they called each other names and this. The next thing you know, all the lights are out in the camp and they're locking and loading the machine guns in the corner of the camps. And they get me. I'm with the other commander, the Vietnamese. And we walked out of his hooch. The camp is totally dark now. We walked into the middle of the parade ground, and then back to back, we each walked towards our team houses, which were both blacked out. And they're yelling to me, get down. And I told them, turn those freaking lights on. And I went into there and turned all the lights on. We put everybody in the team room, and we had going to have a discussion about what was going on. And then all of a sudden, one of the sergeants, I had some great sergeants. I loved them all, quite frankly. The one sergeant pipes in, he goes, sir, he goes, you don't understand. He goes, that bulb is mine. He goes, I bought it in Saigon. Wow. That was a momentary setback. And I thought to myself, and I turned around and I said, here's how it works. From here on out, everything in this camp belongs to Uncle Sam. And anybody who disagrees, I want you to start listening for that helicopter because you're out of here. Well, they put the bulb back in, and somehow we lived through that episode. But it came, let me tell you, they were locking and loading the weapons. Now, I heard Lieutenant George is here, and I'm really happy to hear that. The other incident was when I ultimately went to the Mike Force, and an operation came up where Dong Xuai camp was going to be one of the reinforcing units for the 3 Corps Mobile Strike Force on a specific operation. And while we were together at headquarters, 3 of the sergeants from Dong Xuai came in and told me this story about how this Vietnamese special forces guy went into the team room and went into the cook's billets, and he took his watch from him, right? And the sergeant said to me, and the captain, the new captain, he won't do anything about it. He won't even mention it to him. I said, what? And I said, they went in the American billets? He said, yeah. And so I had got, because now I'm the operations officer of the Mike Force. So I take 2 helicopters, one run of, gunship over us, and the other one we land and go in there, and I tell them to bring that lieutenant in. I want to talk to him. Now I got like 3 bodyguards posted at each one of the corners, and he comes in and I said, I hear you took the cook's watch. And he goes, no, I didn't. He goes, he gave it to me. I said, well, he wants it back now. And he just looked around at all the weapons and everything. So he walks back to his place, and sure enough, he comes back. And I said, give it back to the cook. He wanted to hand it to me. And he hands the cook the watch. And then in my belt, I have a 45. I take the 45 and I lock the loaded around in it. And I hand the gun to the cook. And I said, here, this is for you. And I said, if he walks into this place again, you shoot him. And let me tell you, there was a lot of apprehension, but it ended smoothly. And we never had a problem with them coming into our billets. But those are just 2 interesting stories amongst us just, running typical, 50% of the camp out on a long-term operation, 7-8 days. And we did that for as long as we were there. And of course, we had our share of firefights and losses and things like that. But I'd say those are 2 good highlights at the camp.
Yep, you were there roughly the same period of time.
Yes. Then I went to the Mike Force after that.
Yep, George.
Yeah, I'm sorry about, I can't
Yeah.
show my ugly mug to you guys. Captain
wanted to
Signer,
see-
how you doing?
Pretty good.
How you doing?
Lieutenant George, we had some
God
good
bless
times,
you.
didn't we?
No, I loved the movies, and I saw you out at the Mike Force one time when we were out on we were getting let out on another place, but
Right.
we had a good time. And Captain Signer ran a tough ship, and he did a good job. He that guy came back in later into the team house, and I personally threw him out.
You
Because
did?
Lee, our Chinese cook. I tried
Yeah.
to get him out
Yeah.
after I got back here. I tried to get Lee out, and he was our Chinese cook, and he was from Cholan, and he
Yeah.
married.
We brought
that
him in.
little-
We brought him in just before you got there, I think.
Yeah, I got there in December, and then went through December 1968, and then went through and stayed at Dong Shui till December 69, and I left about the early part of December. And during that time period, we had after you left, we had a captain that was right out of West Point.
Yeah, you remember those guys came and told me this story.
Yeah. So we he got sick with malaria. So I was the senior guy there. We had Jesse Hodges. Jesse died of a massive heart attack in 65. He lived up in Philadelphia.
Wow.
And we were able to get him buried at his wife called me, and we were able to get him buried at Arlington. So
Oh,
we
that's
went back.
fantastic.
Me and I don't know whether you remember the Mac V lieutenant who ate with us. Mac V would come over and eat with us sometimes.
Right.
They were right next door. He's in Tucson. He and I worked together after we got out of Vietnam, and basically I spent 25 years with the FBI, and I met him. I asked him to come on today, but he had a conflict. He could not come on. He
Wow.
was there. He was there in 1969 when the camp blew up. They
Right.
are not
Right.
not 69, 1970 sometimes.
What about
Now,
Antonio? What about Antonio Riccio?
Riccio and Garcia.
Right.
Yeah, they did a great job. We went out with 2 men and about 60 to 90 CIDG, Cambodians and Montagnards. And,
Right.
and that's how we did it. We got down after you left, we were down to about 7 guys. And
Right.
we had to do back-to-back operations a couple of times. And so 2 of
Right.
us would go out and I went out one time and we were the point for the 101st, I think. We ran them through the jungle. They didn't like that too much.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But what happened is that the captain got malaria, and he got out. So the new Pappy Lamar left, and a new colonel came in, and so he made me acting CEO until they got a replacement. So for about 2 or 3 months, we were running with a 7-man team, and
Wow.
so then it wasn't until the last part of my time there, we got a new commander.
Right.
And so they pulled me up to play
Right.
the captain that was at the B team. The captain that was at the B team
Right.
went on leave for 30 days. So they pulled me up to be the S1. You know, I
Right.
did, I stayed there for a month. Then I went back to Dong Xuai, and a funny thing happened. My last operation, my replacement had come in, and they
Right.
needed somebody from the A team. There was a sergeant that wanted to get a CID, so they sent him down.
Yeah. Right.
We went out on an operation up with about 60 CIDG. We went up to the plantation above us. You remember the
Yep.
plantation?
Yeah, I remember. And the
Yeah.
church in it.
Yeah. And
Remember
we you're gonna like this. We were coming down, it was pouring down rain. About the second to last day, we went up there for about 5 days. We were walking back down. They choppered us up there and dropped us off. We were walking down to Dong Xuai. Well, we're on
Right.
the side of this creek, and it was flooding. It was a lot of water. It had been raining for about a week or two.
Yeah, and those rivers get deep.
Yeah. Yeah, we walked down through the middle of that thing. We got up on the side, and I remember burning all the leeches off with my cigarette, burning all the leeches off
You
my
got
legs.
Yeah.
Had them all
Those
over
were
the place.
horrible.
So
Those
we're
are-
coming down one side of this creek, and we're all in, our normal line and with the points out and on the side and the back, except that we were walking right on the edge of where this creek got really, really deep.
Deep.
And so we went up on the side and we were walking down, and we look across, and the Cambodian leader told me, Trung Nguyen, look, VC. And we look
VC.
across, and here are these VC with the tarps up above them cooking and eating. And
Right.
so all of a sudden we dropped down, and I mean, we had this firefight, and we were within 50 yards
Right.
of each other. And so we have this firefight, and we go over there after it's over, smoke everywhere. It smelled like, and we got
Naturally.
over there. They were all gone, but the blood trails, they drug them off. But you know what was sitting there?
Wow.
They left the 60 millimeter mortar that they had been mortaring us with all year long. We got
Wow.
the mortar. We got the damn
It
mortar.
was probably
So
one of ours that they got.
Yeah, well, that cell had been harassing Dong Xuai for years. I think
yeah.
with,
Yeah.
you know how they would shoot the damn mortars and everything. So anyway, that we were able to get that damn thing, and we called it in a chopper and put it on the chopper, and we finished the operation. So bottom line is, Captain Sigler was a good captain. He ran a tight ship, and it's good to see you, sir. I tell you, I've the rest. I would like to tie in with the first gentleman's story. We, during about 2 months after you left,
Right.
we were cleaning out the ammo dumps,
Right.
and we thought we had a spy in one of the CIDG.
Oh, for sure. We
company.
did.
So
You just
what happened is somehow he lit while we removed this thing out, and we had it on the back of a truck.
Right.
Somehow there was a fire started, and we jumped on sergeant. One of the sergeants and I jumped on that damn thing, and we literally threw and stomped the fire out. So it did before it went off.
Exactly.
But that they had been trying this guy. We couldn't figure out who he was, and
Right.
whoever he was pretty.
Yeah.
I heard from the Mac V. That's why I asked.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that somebody was there when this camp got lit up, because the Mac V lieutenant told me that he was there, and they were off to the side, so they weren't in the camp when that explosion went off. Several CIDD died at that camp, and then
Really?
then he told me later that after that explosion they closed Dong Xuai.
Yes.
So I've been.
Well,
my
they
veteran-
supposedly were turning it over to the Vietnamese.
Yes. And so, but basically what happened is I went over there with my Vietnam Veterans Club here in Diablo Valley. It's the Vietnam Veterans of Diablo Valley. I joined in 1990. And basically we went on 2 wheelchair trips. We have a wheelchair foundation. We took 500 wheelchairs both times. And the first time I was there, our guide that was taking us around would not show me Dong Xuai. He said he couldn't get us up there. So the second time I was there, I just told that they had like tour guides. I told the tour guide I wanted to go to Dong Xuai, and I was going to go there, whether he took me or not.
Yeah, exactly. You could go. No problem.
So we got a private car there.
Right.
and I went up there with a major that had been over there, was with us. And we went to where with the old
Dong
district
Xuai
chief's
was.
house. Remember the old district chief's house that was kind of off from our camp?
Yep.
I did this by that using the district chief's house as the locator. They
Right.
after it was overrun, they moved the camp, and 65, I think, is when they overran the camp.
Yeah, you're right.
So what happened is they built where they had a habit, and my guide told me this. He says, you see where that big memorial, they have a big memorial built over on each side of where they lost a large amount of men. And I think they lost like 350 or 400 men trying to overrun the camp, and they were successful. Well, they built a monument there where our camp used to be, the Dong Xuai.
Because it's just flat land, right?
Yes, they built a huge monument there, and I got a picture of it. The gentleman that talked first that said he was there when they overran, when it blew up.
Right.
God, you run it all together. So I left after that. We had a great recio, he contacted me about a year after I got back, and we had a long phone conversation. And then remember Boxy? God, the name, I'm having the mental blank. The medic.
Oh, the medic, Bill, is William
yeah,
McCune.
Basically, he found me in St. Louis somehow. I don't know how he did it.
He's a pretty smart guy.
Knocked on my door, and so we went out to lunch. And,
Wow.
and he was passing through St. Louis, and he looked me up, and God bless him. We tried, me and Jesse Hodges tried to get Lee out. We tried to get a couple of other interpreters out, and we failed. But I tell you what happened. The Cambodian company, we kept having these, what they called equipment losses on these car 15s and 16s, you know, and we'd lose the weapons. What they were doing, they were stockpiling them to go fight Pol Pot in Cambodia. They tried to get Jesse. They tried to get. So what happened? They left as a company, the Cambodian company, and they went in Cambodia to fight. 4 years later, fast forward 4 years. Right. Jesse had given one of these Cambodians that were cleaning our rifles. He had given him his card, and he kept it. And he wrote Jesse from the Thailand. He was in a Thailand holding camp. Right. And through the Catholic Church, we were able, Jesse and I put the money together, and we were able to get him and his family out of there. It took about 2 or 3 years. They are now in Philadelphia. Their 2 sons have gone to school there, and they live in Philadelphia. We were able to get 2 of those guys out.
George, that's fantastic that you did that.
Well, I tell you, they were so loyal. That Cambodian company was totally, he told us, was totally wiped out in Cambodia, fighting.
Really?
That whole place went to hell. But God bless all you guys, and it's been a
right. George, there's one other thing I have to ask you about. Do you remember when we had the number of guys in the camp were down to about 7 or 8? A couple of times, guys were on R&R. The guy was sick, he had malaria, and because there was a lot of stuff going on around. Because we were short guys, I took the operation out myself. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Because I was called in. Remember, they sent a little encrypted message for me to report to Saigon, the headquarters, and I didn't know whether they're going to decorate me or court-martial me, right? So I go in there and report to the XO of 3 Corps, and he just says, "Captain Sigler, it's come to our attention. You were out on operation by yourself." He goes, "It's supposed to be 2 men on operation." I said, "Well, we were short." I said, "We couldn't afford another guy." He goes, 2 men on every operation, period. "Yes, sir." I saluted him and went to the officers club as usual. So that was basically those were the days at do you remember one time I went in with all the money to turn it into, get rid of our piastras, and I ordered a couple pallets of beer, and we got into a little bit of an altercation, and we took the XO's Jeep to Saigon and returned it a couple days later. And you won't believe this. Watch this. We were at a B team meeting, right? I'm there with 3 captains and our XOs, they were sergeants this time. And at the meeting, he says, Captain Sigler, you stay. I stay, right? And this is going to be hard to believe, but I saw it with my own eyes. There was a court-martial paperwork all there. And the CO of 3 Corps Special Forces, he writes a note on top of it to the XO, our B team commander. And he says, this decision is yours. He goes, Captain Sigler is an excellent combat officer, period. And you won't believe this. I swear to God, as I'm sitting here, he looks, he says, you trying to get yourself kicked out of the Army? I said, well, I didn't allow drinking in camp. Yeah, ask Marlowe about that. I didn't allow drinking in camp. But when you're back there, I said, I had too much to drink. I said that, up. And he looks at it, he looks at me, and he takes the thing, boom, and he throws it in the garbage. And he said, get out of here. And the thing was about an inch thick on onion skin.
No.
So, dodging balls all the time.
Well,
Great to talk to you, George.
yeah. Hey, listen, the one thing that I recall about Dong Swai is we always were that when I left, they finally got so the last week I was there, the new captain just told me to get lost. They had 12 guys. All of a sudden,
wow.
we had 12 guys. And
Oh, yeah.
so he just told me to get lost. So bottom line is going back there.
Yeah. Did they still have that tower? Remember that tower we brought in from the 82nd Airborne? That 3-story monstrosity?
I didn't see it.
Okay.
They pretty much, what the Vietnamese did is they went crazy. They killed the 3,000 people of the educators. And now, what happened, going back there twice, what happened is you still got the Communist Party running this country.
Oh, of course.
What they did, they almost went, just as for the information of everybody here, they almost, if you haven't gone back, go back. They are capitalists. They went down and got the southern leaders down there and brought them up to Hanoi, and they said, what are you guys doing down there? And they said, we're selling everything. So they started in Vietnam. Vietnam are capitalists. They may call themselves.
They're capitalists. They're communists that use capitalism.
They are selling everything. I mean,
Saigon was that way when we were there.
Yeah.
You could buy
I'm telling you.
anything.
Yeah, they
Want to buy an M60 machine gun?
Oh,
They had everything.
I'm telling you that if you haven't been back there, go back there.
I don't think. Were you there when they accidentally dropped off that station wagon to us?
Yes.
And we hit it out on the runway? And then all of a sudden the CDC, they're sending messages to the camps that the planes went on, like trying to track it down. And I'm not sure. I think we put it on one of the planes. We finally decided we weren't going to black market it. There were just too many CID guys on top of this vehicle.
Well, here's the deal. I got malaria, and I didn't know. I thought I had the flu right out of coming out of Vietnam. So I know they thought I was on drugs on the plane. I was sweating like everything. I thought I had the flu, and I got back, and I went to a private hospital. I didn't go to the VA for a while. So I went to a private hospital. This doctor happened to be doing, the emergency room doctor happened to be doing a deal on foreign diseases.
Right.
He was a president. So he cured me. He gave me the paraquin and all this stuff and treated me. No, but the bottom line was that Dong Swai has a hell of a history, and we tried to, Jesse and I tried to get as many of those, the Cook, Lee,
Right.
and the thing out, and we couldn't do it. And
Right.
unfortunately, they probably were in that group. They shot. Right now, that country is about as it's just. I would promote anybody that hadn't been back to go back.
Right.
And look
Right.
at this place. They've got great restaurants. They got great beaches.
Oh, it's, you know,
it's-
we're back to, you know, yeah, you're right. You're back to the basics, which
Well,
is
what
for
to me,
another time, maybe.
my wife talked me into going back. I didn't want to go back. She talked me into going. I'm telling you, it's the best thing I ever did.
Did you go on
And-
one of the tours? Was it a tour or did you go by yourself?
Well, we went with the whole club. The club went about
Oh, the club. Yeah, all right.
10,
So you had a
15
pretty,
guys, and we took wheelchairs back there from the Wheelchair Foundation.
oh, yeah, all right, I got you.
And the Wheelchair Foundation paid for a lot of this stuff. And so but I would say to everyone there that hadn't been back to go back, and you'll see we literally won that war. They are capitalists. They're selling everything.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they're-
Exactly. Hey, George, give me your email address. George,
I'll send it to you.
okay,
Everybody's
Yes.
email is on the top of the message that I sent out to everybody.
because I have another.
Oh,
appointment
You
this
all
afternoon.
have your each other's email on the message I sent to you to tell you about.
Oh, yeah, I saw it now that you mentioned it. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Look,
Okay.
we have-
Steve.
Bruce,
All right, it's been a
Did-
pleasure, guys.
Jim,
Yeah, I have one short alibi. Bob O'Malley was the team captain. He was a Filipino Irishman.
right?
He looked like a mountain yard. He was coming back from an operation. Westmoreland had just landed in the camp, and I took him down and briefed him. Came back up, and Bob is coming in with the strikers, and Westmoreland, in his best pidgin Vietnamese, said, "You killed many VC." O'Malley snapped to attention. He said, "Sir, Captain O'Malley reporting, sir." Westmoreland just about fell over. He had no idea. He thought Bob was an indige. And that's in our book from Dead A. I spent 7 years or 6 years in Detachment A in Berlin, and Bob O'Malley commanded that detachment after a while. I just thought I'd throw it in there about Westmoreland. That was a funny part.
Bruce Bradigan,
Say again?
I'm trying to get Bruce Bradigan to say something since he's
Oh,
been
okay.
trying to connect to audio through the whole event. But I don't, if you find it fair how to talk, you might want to tell something because they mentioned you a couple times, not by name. Ambrose Brennan has not come back yet, as far as I can tell. So he's just sitting there en route. I want everybody to know that I don't know how many of you remember the Green Beret magazines, but we reprinted them and they're available on our website, as well as some other stuff, including the yellow book for each year that Bill Stokes had his article about Dong Xuai in. And in the chat box, you can download that article.
Okay, so thanks, Steve, for putting this together. I think about Dong Xuai almost every day. I really do. I got one funny story. If you don't have anybody else that wants to say something.
Go ahead.
Well, you know how we would go down to Phuc then and get the food. You know, we'd send the truck and a couple of CIDG and a couple of sergeants would go down and get the food, and we would take all these we would make up all these Ho Chi Minh sandals, get the village ladies to do it, and we would give them to the food mess sergeant down at the company down there that was down at Phuc Vin. I keep thinking it was the 101st, but I don't know. But I can't remember. But we would send them down, and they would mount a 30 caliber, machine gun, on the top of the truck, and then they would get in the back, and then we'd also buy a lot of beer when we were down there for the bar down that we had. So they went down there and they stayed a little bit longer than they should have, and they were coming back and ran into a group of NVA crossing the road. So there was this big shootout we were shooting and I'm just telling you what they told me. They were shooting the 30 caliber and the VC or the NVA crossing the road did not know who we were. So they didn't really want to fight right then. So they left, but they killed 3 dead right there on the road. So I didn't know how to write this up. So what I did was, and that was a short period that I was in command there. And so I wrote it up as a patrol, that we went out on a patrol on the road, and the colonel got this write up in Song Bay, the B team, and he put both the sergeants in for the Bronze Star Medal for valor, and they both got the Bronze Star. I thought that was on a food run, and we had to explain the bullet holes in the truck because we had to get a new truck. They shot the radiator. They were lucky to make it back. They shot off the radiator and everything else. So that we were lucky to do that. I thought that was a humorous story.
Was that Gifford and Cash that got the Bronze Stars?
I think it was Sergeant Riccio and Sergeant Laura. I'm not sure. I have to check and look back.
Laura died about 2 months ago. And Riccio is supposed to be in San Antonio. I have about 20 phone numbers for him, many of which I've tried, and I just can't raise him.
Oh man. Well, let me tell you, Sergeant Riccio was one hell of a sergeant. I went out with him several times, and when we took two Americans with on each operation. Sergeant Laura had a bad drinking problem, and we had to send him up to the B team to get him some help. But just real quick, CID, when my captain came back, he was a West Point captain. He's a Strat guy, good guy. He came back from having malaria. He took over the team, and he was there when a CID guy came down one day, and he had papers for a Article 15 against Laura and Riccio. And since I was in command, but I was out on an operation, when the captain told me I had to sign these things. So I sat down with the CID guy and the captain, and I said, what are you saying? He said, well, what they were saying is that they had sold the district chief some long range patrol rations. And I said, look, I was out on a patrol. I don't know anything about it. He says, well, you were in command then, so you have to sign this paper. And here I knew Laura had a few problems, but he was a good soldier. But Ricio was one of the best. And I sat there and I said, well, let me sleep on it. So the next morning we went back in the captain's room and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, so I said, I looked at that CID guy and I said, you see that air conditioner back there? He was from Benoit, by the way, the A-team. He says, I said, you see that air conditioner back there? Since I've been here, it hasn't worked. It's blowing out hot air in our team room. And he said, it has nothing to do with this, Lieutenant. And I said, well, just hear me. I said, you see that refrigerator over there? It's broken. It won't freeze. It won't freeze in the freezer, and it doesn't almost puts hot air out. When we've been trying to get a new air conditioner and a new refrigerator since I've been here. And he says to me, he says, well, that has nothing to do with this. And I said, well, I'll tell you what it does have to do with. I've been back to Benoit several times. Every room there has a working refrigerator. All of your rooms, you have working air conditioners. I said, you want me to sign that damn thing? I'll sign it when you guys get us a new refrigerator or a good refrigerator and a good air conditioner. So the guy said, I'm going to write you up, Lieutenant. I said, go right ahead. And so the captain grabbed me and he pulled me back into your office. He said, Skip, you're going to get in big trouble over this. And I said, you know what? Those guys don't deserve those Article 15s. They've gone out on all these operations while those guys are sitting in the huts doing paperwork or something back in Benoit. And they got those refrigerators and air conditioners, and we have nothing. We're going out on back-to-back operations here, and I said, to heck with it. You know what? Both of them retired from the Army. God bless them. And I love those guys. And I'm just happy to be here with you guys.
Skip, the captain you're talking about is Bruce Bradigan, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think his first name was Bruce.
Well, Bruce is.
But he was a West Point captain. He was a good guy. He was true a good guy. So, but this had to do with me and my attitude about we're out here fighting a war. These guys are trying to give a couple of guys Article 15s over a couple of bags of long range patrol rations. That would have washed them out of the Army. And so I didn't want to do that. So
Ambrose, I'm glad you could make it here. Ambrose Brennan.
Hey, buddy. Thank you, Steve.
How about giving a little talk about your time in the camp? You fit in after Harold Taylor.
Putting together all that stuff and then putting these Zooms together. Thank you so much, Steve, for what you've done. Hey, listen, I would say one thing to everybody you might come in contact with. I called in two ranch hand missions about a month before we went to Boonard. And of course, we walked around in that crap. I realize this is Geovok, but Dong's why, but we walked around in that crap, and I'm on my third cancer. I'm 14 years into my third cancer, leukemia, prostate cancer, and multiple myeloma. And so I just alert all of you guys who are still living. Probably some of the team members have died from cancer from Agent Orange. I don't know. And but the symptoms, if you've been up to Boonard for whatever reason and walked around, you've probably kicked up some dirt from Agent Orange. And I feel sad for all the children, the Vietnamese civilians and children who probably also have had many incidences of cancer introduced by Agent Orange. So, and then it would be one other thing I would say. I don't see any of my team members here, but in October 67, I'm sorry, November 67, the 1st Brigade commander of the 1st Division sent up a full Thanksgiving dinner. He had his food service warrant, fill up a couple, 3 Marmite cans and stuff, and he helicoptered in a real Thanksgiving dinner. His name is Sid Berry, Colonel Sid Berry at the time. He was eventually, I think he retired as a 3-star, and he's dead now, but what a great, thoughtful commander Sid Berry was to do that. So anyway, I always thought there should be a tighter relationship on intelligence and reacting to contacts that we had out of I keep saying the wrong team, out of Dong Xuai. There should have been a tighter relationship between the 1st Division. He had 3 battalions on at Phuoc Vinh, and he could have jumped on different operations there where we had contacts and gone in the next day and made some efforts. But anyway, it wasn't as tight as it could have been. Let's put it that way. That's all I wanted to say at the moment.
I agree with you. We are having, out of our Vietnam club, we've had several guys die of Agent Orange, and my best buddy who was with the 101st died at 45. He just totally deteriorated. We'd been to OCS together. It's just horrible. It's just that motivated me to go. I finally in 1990 went to the VA, and you know, I tell you, they're doing a great job, but that crap has just killed a lot of brave guys that got back and suffered from this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
the other aspect of it with regard to the VA is I'm 100% compensation.
yeah,
Now that amounts for me $3,500 a month. But I sometimes wonder about the relationship or the scale of difference between what the veteran gets compensated for at 100%, or any percent for that matter, but let's say 100%, and the adjudication of the people who got benefits out of the World Trade Center bombing. I never was aware, I don't even know whether it's been published, how much money they were able to get per family. And I know they tried to do their best on the adjudication of the money that they had, but it would be interesting if somebody had the time and the smarts to make a analysis to see whether our veterans and how they were compensated in relationship to the World Trade Center.
you know, it's there's several organizations like the one that I'm donating to now, the organization that builds homes for these veterans.
Yeah,
These firefighters. There's several organizations
Absolutely.
like out there that try to try to help these. I belong to an organization that we took care of these young men that in these present wars that lost 2 arms and a leg, and we got them a place, we got them a job, and got them a place to live. We've raised a lot of money for them, and basically there are a lot of good people trying to help the veterans, and not depending on the VA or the government. There's too much politics going on. I just try to stay away from it. It's just you get if I get carried away, my wife tells me to stop thinking about it. But what happened in Afghanistan and what this guy is doing today with not thinking of the veterans, he ought to be helping. Instead, he's thinking of helping illegal aliens. So that it just kills me about the politics of this stuff, and it just better not to think about it. So I try not to think about it. The VA is doing the best they can, and I think they do a great job. These organizations that are all popping around our country by these good people that are taking care of our veterans. These young kids got beat up a lot worse than we did with all these roadside bombs. And
Yeah,
just,
and the thing about it is,
it's
most
hard.
in our era, most of these guys would have been dead.
Yeah.
But the medic chain of command, the chain of evacuation, the skill of medics at the lower level, and the surgeons, the doctors, they've saved these guys' lives, even though they may be amputees and stuff like that. Once they got them back to Walter Reed or Bethesda, they had a chance to live. And I'm so glad that the Tunnel to Tower organization is really doing a great job for both the firemen, the policemen, and veterans. So it's great. It's great.
Yeah. No, I tell you, the sergeants are the heart and soul of our military today and yesterday. Without you guys, and without the knowledge and help, they're the soul's foundation that the military sits on, and that's why we have a good military. I'll never forget the first sergeant when I was a second lieutenant at Fort Bragg. He comes in, he tells me, he says, "Sergeant, you know what?" He said, "Lieutenant, you know what a second lieutenant is?" And I said, "What, Sergeant?" And he said, "A walking mistake, looking for a place to happen." And I said, "Well, I tell you what, Sergeant, that's true." So I said, "That's why I'm asking you what to do every time." He just that it is. We had a seminar with this organization that we helped the veterans of today, and we had a general speak at that as our speaker, and he said, we as generals sit back and give orders. We are successful because our total base, the sergeants in this chain of command, are the so strong. It's the strong nut that makes and bolts that makes this operation work. They're the ones that get hurt. They're the ones that see the action. They're the ones that make the calls. And he says that's what we're based on. And it's the first time I've ever heard a general say anything like that. And
Yeah,
it was good to hear.
it's true.
It's true.
Absolutely true. The officers get in there in front of their maps and they wave their arms around and say, "We're going to do this, we're going to do that, and we're going to do this." And then they walk out of the room, and on the way out of the room, they say, "Master Sergeant, will you please take care of this?" And you know, they do, and the other thing, they do it very well, and they love it. That's the idea too. You know, they love their soldiers. I had a first sergeant in the 101st. I was a battalion XO at the time, and it's almost like I fell in love with the guy. What I fell in love with was the manner in which he talked to the troops. I would sneak around the building and listen to him talk to the troops when the officers weren't around. And it just really inspired me, the way he conducted himself, the way he spoke respectfully, pointedly, and with a little sharpness in his voice, you know. So he didn't have to get much sharper in his voice, but because they didn't realize it then, and we would not have called it this way then, but he really loved them. And they loved him back because of the way he conducted himself.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Totally agree. Thank you again, Steve, for putting this together.
I
Yeah.
thought we would have a few more people.
Let me ask a question to Skip here. I think you said you had a picture of the monument there at Dong Soi.
Yes.
Yeah, is it possible you could share it with us?
Yeah, I will go back. My kids got my albums and totally kind of tore them apart over the years before, but I will look and try to find some photos, and I'll send from my time there, and I'll send them to Steve. Let me
No,
in the
Great.
Please don't do that.
I'm sorry.
I have a website called specialforcesphotos.com,
Yeah.
as opposed to specialforcesbooks.com.
Yeah.
You go to Special Forces Photos and you sign your name in, your whole name. Don't give me Skip 42. Give me Louis George.
I hardly use that name.
Well, give me a name that I can recognize, because
Okay.
I have bots coming there every day. I throw them out.
So I'll get them to you.
If I don't want them. I made this website because
Okay.
it's very
I'll send
difficult
to the
for
website.
me to post the pictures individually. You know what's in the pictures. You know how to write the captions. When
Okay.
you go to that website, you sign in. Once I recognize you, give you permission to sign in. You have
Okay.
an album there for every single camp in Vietnam. Post your pictures, post your captions.
Okay.
Somebody else comes by and says, I'm the third guy from the left.
Okay.
You can add that to your caption. That website is very nicely set up to do that, hands off as far as I'm concerned. You send the pictures to me. I'm a busy guy. I'm 80 years old. I'm still messing around.
Hey, welcome to the club. I'm 82.
Right. Well,
So we're old dogs.
we
I feel
are.
33 in my mind.
It makes it easier to find people. I don't look for anybody under 75.
Incidentally, you can Google Dong Xuai and you'll pick up photos of that monument that sits.
Is that right?
Yes, yes. Mhm.
It's a monument for the communist dead, but it's also a monument that Bill Stokes and his guys killed them all.
Yeah.
All right, this
Mercy.
you and Nick Hunn were pretty close in timing over there. Nick called me just before this, and he said he was trying to get his computer to work. He didn't, apparently. But anyway, this is a book that he wrote,
Oh, wow.
and I've made a link to it on the website, the Special Forces Books website. I linked to Amazon, and the map that I showed you earlier in the day, that's also on the Special Forces Books website as well. So you can download the map, and the map is went over 50,000, about tabloid size. So you probably don't have a printer that will do it, but the most printers will print different pages of full size. So you tape them together, and you'll have
Nick was my, so I,
Yeah, you're freezing up over there.
Yeah,
real American hero. Hear me?
You're
This is
freezing.
a real American hero.
Okay.
He was a little baby in Budapest at the end of the war. And then he went into refugee status and came home and went through what I would say is a normal schooling, joined the army, was an MP initially and then became an officer, came in special forces, eventually went to be a pilot. He went to the 173rd Brigade as a platoon leader from Boonard. And then he went in helicopters. He had a couple of crashes. He eventually retired as 06 and took a position in West Virginia penal system and served in that. In fact, he's at a hearing today. That's why he's not here. He's at a hearing today for a parole hearing. But he's gone through an amazing journey from the time he was plucked out of Budapest during the war. And he is a real live American hero, I can tell you. He's a wonderful guy, great guy. If I had the money, I'd make the movie.
well, when I was at Dong Swai, Budop was having a heavy fighting all the time. Seemed like they were getting attacked, several times. During that 1968-69 period.
Well, there's a lot of history for a lot of different camps. And while we were at them, we knew the things that were happening. Hopefully we record some of it here. But sometimes we got things secondhand. And the illustration I like to make is about the Tet Offensive, where everybody in the United States saw everything going to shit in Vietnam. But then a few years ago, we had a hurricane over here in Houston, and there's a lot of flooding. And I was getting calls from all over the country, people asking me if I was up on the roof of my house waiting to be rescued. So things aren't always as they seem by the reports that you get.
Yeah.
Certainly, the original battle at Dong Swai was a real fight up there. And I've got a scad of other individual incidents at Dong Swai where people got silver stars, bronze stars, and Archon Blue V for different events that happened at Dong Swai. After that, besides Stokes, after Stokes' team gathered up a lot of laurels there, you're going on to it, as you approach 68, 67, you got Herman McBride with a silver star. You got Jonah Turner with an Archon with V, also in 68. Charles Berlin, Archon with V. Donald Piper, Bronze Star with V. Gary Reed, Bronze Star with V. Now, I wish we had people here to talk about all those events that happened, because it's quite a history for a camp. You had an opening battle in which everything from the Medal of Honor on down went out, and then you've got 4 more years of other things happening in smaller parts. One of the things I'm trying to do to put together is a collection of mopsums from the group headquarters. It's going to take a while to get all the typing done. And I'm still missing about 12 months. But from 1962 to the end of 1970, I got all but 12 of the mopsums from fifth group, and various
Wow.
people trying to help me out typing them up. So when I get them, the history that's going to be there is going to be much more detailed than what we have. I sent Skip a little piece extract from the 1970, 71 fifth group history.
Mm.
And he might,
Thank you for that, Steve.
you might want to put some of
I
that.
really appreciate what you're doing. I really do.
You might want
Steve,
to,
Steve, I just would alert you, I don't know how much energy you've got, but I've been up to the National Archives, looking up stuff, for, the National Archives is located west of the University of Maryland campus.
I'm very
And
familiar with it.
they have a folder, maybe 2 or 3 folders for each camp with a lot of photos, everything. They got the fire plans, a lot of information about every camp. I had to pull 1 or 2 camps. The next time I go there, I'm going to pull Dong Xuai and Boonard, but it's a wealth of information, and you tell the analyst what you want. He shows you what he get, then you go to the motel, you come back the next day, and all those folders are available for your review. And they got copy machines right there, you know, you can copy whatever you need. So,
Yeah.
I just.
Nowadays, you're doing it with cameras. They're letting copies. The price on the physical copies was going up to a high level. I have 9,000 pages of award orders out of the National Archives that we copied when it was only 10 cents a copy. And I've got filing cabinets, a row of 5 filing cabinets over there full of stuff. But to get stuff for the individual camps, I've got to get people from those camps to deal with it, because I can't manage it all. I've finished a 14-volume series that I edited on the Vietnam War. I've reprinted the Green Beret magazines.
Ah,
Do you remember those?
I have that set.
And I'm coming out with another set of probably 30 volumes that are going to be a reference library. They're targeted at college libraries. They'll all be on thumb drives.
geez. Steve.
Right?
So Steve, I've got to back out this. I got a 12 o'clock appointment. I'm still working at 80. I'm a security guy. So look, will you have another one of these in the future?
I'm this next 2 days, I'm doing the camps 42, 43, and then 41, 44 tomorrow. Then I move to folklore.
Okay.
I won't be having another session for individual camps, but you
Okay.
have in the to box of the email I sent you, you've got all the emails that I have,
Okay.
and you can get a free Zoom session from Zoom for 40 minutes without paying them anything. So if you want to organize something, by all means, feel free to do it.
Okay. I was going to do that. And I want to say to all you guys on this thing, I'm proud of every one of you for serving and doing your jobs. God bless you. I hope we all live to be 100. And Steve, you're remarkable. I don't know how you're doing all this stuff. Thank you so much. I appreciate being here and being included. So I'll talk to you guys later here. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Skip.
Thanks, guys.
Having these Zoom meetings is a lot of fun and a lot of interesting stuff comes out. And the website has got the recordings on it for those that have been edited. And ultimately, we'll have recordings of each of these meetings on specialforcesbooks.com. So you'll be able to see it all there. And on my email, I have a bunch of links to other websites that I have. Now, feel free to take a look at them because some interesting things going together on the Vietnam War as a whole, on Special Forces history. And it's available there.
You know, on the broader scheme of things, it's instructive. If you look back at what was going on in the spring of 1965 at HACOM and conversations between CINCPAC and people in Saigon concerning in Westmoreland concerning the introduction of U.S. forces. And what occurred, as you may recall, was in the late spring of 1965, the decision was made to bring in the 173rd Airborne to Vung Tau, and that partially depleted the aircraft that were available for the CB team to get its heavy equipment into Dong Xuai. And also lack of interest in the 5th ARVN Division in working the area between Song Bay and Dong Xuai.
There's a lot of good material out on the broader picture. Foreign relations of the United States, State Department history goes into a considerable amount of detail on all the deliberations going on there. MACV command histories are available, and I'm in the process of digitizing those so that you can search for any word in the 12,000 pages that's involved in that history. And there are just lots of other pieces of material. I got sent a 200-page document, which a friend of mine who was number 3 man in the State Department with Kissinger had been hanging on to for many years. The guy who wrote it died in 1994. This guy died last year. And his wife sent it to me. This 200-page diplomatic history from 1945 to 1975 that I thought was really good. So I'm working on editing that to see where that goes. And he goes into all this stuff, all the deliberations that were gone. But he's only doing it 200 pages. The fruits will give you, 200 pages just on 1965. So it's a lot of fun.
If you don't mind, let me just give a real quick little story. Because I was the second man about the bill. But I recall we had this female reporter to come down, spend a day with us. And we took her around and showed her everything. And we took her out to the Mount Yard village. And she was extremely interested in the fact that some of the women were bare-breasted and some were not. And we explained to her that in the culture, basically, I mean, once they got married, then there was no reason to hide anything. And they were the bare-breasted ones. And the ones that had on some cover, they were single. And I guess you had to marry them to find out what was there. But anyway, we were out there in the hot sun. And all of a sudden, she got the idea she said, well, I'm fairly well endowed myself. And so she got a bunch of the naked women and she went over and she sat down and posed with them to show off her breasts. Now, of course, at that time, we did have the little Polaroid camera, so we took a few pictures, which we gave to her. But the name of her book was The Doom Pussy. And the Doom was the name Open Officer Smith. That was before she got the Doom. And of course, the pussy was because they had a motto about flying into the jaws of a cat, a pussy cat. She passed away not too long ago. Her name was Elaine Shepherd. But that was a very interesting day that had. So she's got some pictures in her book about us at the camp as well.
I didn't realize.
Earl, would you spell her last name?
Shepherd, Shepard. I think she only had one P in it. Elaine Shepherd.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Doom Pussy. It may be out of print now, but I was able to find one or two on the secondary market.
Well, like I tell you what, I know we shouldn't be telling war stories on this venue, but anyway, I'll just tell.
No, you're supposed to.
We have to. Oh, yeah.
We were up on patrol out of Dongswai up near Boonard. And the strike force got kind of excited and I ran up to, I had split my pants open and I ran up to what was all the excitement, and they had found a woman hiding in the rice paddy. So about that time, and I don't know how it happened, some general landed his chopper not too far away. So I grabbed the woman, I picked her up and asked the general if he would take her back to Dongswai and turn her over to Lieutenant Hahn. And so I picked her up, I threw her on the bird. She was absolutely a mess. She was frightened. Of course, I don't really know whether she saw when my pants were split open or not. But anyway, so the general took off and took her back. About a week and a half or 2 weeks later, I went down to the district chief and I said, listen, I'd like to talk to this woman. And he said, okay, come on, we'll go down and see her. So we went down to see her. And I just wanted to apologize to her for, and I said, of course, she wanted to be very humble in front of me. I understood that. But I said, I just want to apologize to you for if I hurt you or anything and for scaring you, because I know you were frightened. And he had already given her a little pot and seeds to plant a garden. So she was on her way to becoming a full-fledged Vietnamese citizen. And then I said to her, you know, I realize you lived up there for a while. I don't know, I would be happy to take you back and bring you back to your family. If you'd like me to do, oh, no. I don't want to go back. I want to stay right here. So I thought, I asked her again and she said no. So that was just one of a very small part of the war, you might say.
David, you're coming in here late. We're happy that you finally joined us.
Well, I was taking chemotherapy.
Skip George was here and has left since. He was talking about one event in which some people came, went out by truck, trading, and came back and ran into a unit crossing the road, NVA VC unit crossing a road, got to a firefight. Was that you that was involved in that?
You talking to me?
To David Cash, yes.
Yeah.
You got a.
Are you Steve?
I'm Steve. You got a bronze
Glad
medal.
to, glad to meet you. Glad to meet you. I was in camp that night when they brought about 8 or 9 bodies back to camp and laid them out. It was my understanding that night. It was our counterparts that got into the firefight and killed all those guys. I don't remember any of our team participating. I think they caught one guy alive and was interrogating him. So Skip George was on here recently.
Yes.
He's gone now.
Not now. He has another appointment.
Okay. I talk funny now because I had a stroke, so you'll have to bear with me.
Not a problem. But what was your
As-
star about on June 11th?
Pardon?
On June 11th of 1969, you did
Yeah.
you a Bronze Star with Vig.
I went out with Lieutenant Hodges. The two of us went out on a insertion, and on that insertion, the two lead helicopters backed into each other, and the little LZ that we were trying to land on, and it exploded right in front of me. So we had to spend a couple hours. They flew in and out with parts, and parts of bodies, and everybody was killed in those two helicopters. And then the next day, we ran into base camp that we didn't know was there. That we had intel that it might be in the area, and we had a firefight that afternoon. It lasted quite a while, and it was a couple of days before we got back to camp. That was Lieutenant Hodges. I think you said he was dead now.
He's gone.
He died.
Yes, he did.
That's Harmon Hodges' brother. I knew him well.
He was Harmon Hodge's brother,
I think so.
Preacher Hodge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who are you, sir?
My name's Jim Wild.
What were you there doing?
I was an XO at Zomcat for a little while, and then I was also in Duke Fong
Dong Swai.
and Dong Swai. Zomcat, Dong Swai, and Duke Fong. My first camp was Duke Fong.
My first camp was Duck Fong. It sucked.
Well, it was still under construction when I got there.
Right. I was
5-pointed star.
I was there in early '69.
I was there 66 to May of 67.
Dong Xuai was a paradise compared to Duck Fong. I thought, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good camp.
Dong Xuai got overrun in the early days, I remember hearing.
Bill Stokes was there and told us about it. Plus, in the chat session, if you click the chat button, you can download his article about it. Now, I think you're the latest person we have. You went up there to about November of 69. The camp was closed out in about February of 70, or at the end of January of 70. We had no visitors here in this session who were there through the closing. So I don't know if you have any recollection of things leading to that.
I was there. I transferred back to Duck Fong in the fall of 69 after I got the Intel records straightened out, and went back to Duck Fong as the engineer. So I finished my tour, and I left there a week after Christmas of 70 and processed out of country. Went back to the 7th in Fort Bragg. So, interesting year.
You and Bill Herring had responsibilities as intel for the team.
Fine.
Different times. Bill, you were the intel sergeant before you became the team sergeant. Is that correct?
Right.
And David was the intel sergeant, even though he was really an engineer by training.
I went through intel school too.
There was a fellow who was not SF, but he was an intel person somewhere. And he wrote a book on how terrible, how poorly intel records were maintained in Vietnam. And everything he described as how well he was doing his job is basically what I thought and I saw our intel people doing. Okay, there may be some camps where records were fairly sloppy, but on from the earliest days of TDY teams coming in there, it seemed that the people had a pretty intimate knowledge of what was going on in their AO, and they were keeping fairly good records on it. And this guy's concerned about the U.S. intel operations in Vietnam, I think, were a bit overblown, at least as far as SF was concerned. Your comments?
I think everybody on the team knew what was going on and who was in the area. And my contacts that I had were recruited by the previous intel sergeant, and I don't remember his name. He was a Mexican fella that got shot or received shrapnel in his back just after I got to country, and I took his place. Ortega or something. He was F E7. I was only an E5 till in the end of the year when I made E6. But
It was Peter Azarandia that was there on the team. But
who?
after you, really.
Pardon?
There was a Peter Azarandia who was there on the team, but he was after you.
Okay.
If you're talking about Antonio Recio, I thought he was weapons man.
Did he get wounded about late January of 69?
In January 69.
That may be correct. And he was just handling the intel stuff. And it may be that it was why it was just piled up. All the mopsums and ensigns at the time were just stacked haphazardly. He may have been a weapons man.
So unfortunately, we didn't have a few other people showing up because there's some time frames that are empty here. That would be
Okay.
somebody filling in on.
This fellow was a hell of a nice guy. He was Spanish and Latino, and I think he was a FC, and he took a team out or operation out and returned and had a piece of shrapnel in his back, so that he was sent back to the hospital somewhere, and he never returned. So I think I took the place of a guy that was pulling guard duty one night, and he laid his shotgun up alongside him to take a smoke break, and the shotgun slid over into his side and went off. And the guys told me that he was alive when he was medevaced out of the camp, but he died on the way back to Benoit. And I think, and I don't remember his name, that would have been about Christmas time of 68, 9. So did you ever hear about that incident?
No, I don't have anybody that fits that bill. There was one camp commander in 68 was killed. And then Herman McBride in 67 was killed at the camp. But other than the people at the original battle of Dong Xuai, I don't have anybody I've been able to identify killed at the camp.
That was Duck Fong, what I was talking about.
Oh, Duc Fong is another matter. I'm talking about Dong Xuai right now. That's what I've got the records on here. Duc Fong will be coming up on the second part of the day here. So
Oh. You've got structured various camps
yeah, this is
to talk about.
342 at the first one, and then in about another hour, we'll be starting out with 343.
Oh, okay.
You were at both of them. Jim was at both of them.
Well, I was replaced. I don't know. I don't remember his name at Dong Swai, but I hated to leave. It was a nice place back in '69. Had a nice shower and rooms for everybody. The first captain that I met in '69 when I got there, it was a slim, short captain. I don't remember his name, but he was from West Point, and he was a hell of a nice guy. And he was.
I wish we could get Bruce Bradigan to get his voice going up. Because I think that's who you're referring to over there. But he's been sitting here all this time and not connecting.
What's he look like?
Well, I think that's supposed to be a picture of him there with a kid over his shoulder. I don't know if that's going to tell you anything. But
I don't see him.
no, he's a, you see the name. I don't know what I think every computer's got a different alignment of people. But it's the one that has a little square picture in the middle. Everybody else has a full picture. And his picture is just not coming up. It's just a little square in the middle of the. Bruce, can you hear me? Are you even out there? People keep mentioning you, or at least I think they're mentioning you, and you're not reacting. I don't know. Maybe if I just dump him off, you'll come back again.
Did Skip George retire from the FBI?
Oh, he retired from the FBI, yeah.
In Phoenix or somewhere there.
There, but on the email I sent you, you've got everybody else's email address. So you can individually and contact them, or you can contact the whole group by forwarding the email.
What information do you have on any other guys from Dong Swai?
On the website, there's a list of everybody who I know from Dong Swai, and it gives you a status. Those who are deceased, it says DEC. The other statuses are a little bit less apparent, but basically YE means I have an email for them, and Y means I know where they are. And that's books.com.
I'm not tried to click on any of the other information that you sent me, the links. I barely figured out how to do this. So uh,
You did figure it out, and some other people have not been able to figure it out. That's why they're not here, and you are. You did well.
I'll keep trying. I miss some of the guys.
Okay, here are two more people showing up. I don't know if they're early for Duc Fong or what. Late for Dong Swai or early for Duc Fong. Jack Hunt.
Earl,
Hello.
I had two of my NCOs that came back to Dong Swai, and Lamar Sale, who was a medic, and Tony Silva, who was a demo guy. Were they there when you were there?
Yeah, Sales, I remember Sales very well, the medic. The other one, I don't recall.
Okay.
But Sales, yes.
He's retired lieutenant colonel up in Stanton, Virginia, and we correspond. We phone each other about once a month.
He was a heck of a medic too. Heck of a good medic, yeah. Who was your other medic at that?
Jim Taylor.
New York.
Jim Taylor.
Okay. Don't remember him. I think it was a guy named Stafford that must have come in after.
Cell phone should be turned to the airplane mode or off position at
Jim Taylor was later in the 173rd. He earned the DSC at Dong Swai and retired later as a major. A very fine
Okay.
fellow.
Now I muted Jack Hunt, or the one that says iPhone Jack. I still don't know who that is, but he had some background noise on there, so I had to mute him.
Mhm.
If Jack or Hunter, whoever you are, if you will let me know who you are and put your microphone back on, we'll get you straightened out. Larry, you're a little bit early for the Duc Fong meeting. I guess that's why you're here for Duc Fong. But you've got a couple of your teammates already here because they were both at Dong Swai and Duc Fong. And David has very negative things to say about the camp in comparison. Let's see if we can figure out who Hunt is.
Steve, I'm gonna drop out and say goodbye, and I'll see you tomorrow afternoon at 4 for the Boonard session.
Very good. Look
Thank you.
forward to it.
God
Appreciate
bless all you guys for what you've done and what you're doing. Take care.
Bless Ambrose.
All right, I'm going to turn off the recording here.